Hey, it's Joe Barnes from the Screw the System channel, and I'm here today with a new video about how to sell the first 1,000 copies of your book without any paid advertising. Now, this was a milestone that I crossed back in November of last year. It was the 29th of November, in fact, 2018, when I sold my 1,000th copy of Escape the System. Now, I made this video because this has taken me a long time to achieve. In fact, it's been a 6 and 3/4 year journey. So I want to tell you guys about the story, also give you some tips. So if there are any aspiring authors out there, hopefully you can avoid some of the mistakes I've made and learn from the things that have worked. So we'll start this video off with a bit about the backstory. Now, my book has been through many changes since I first published it, I think on the 18th of February 2012. Back then, it was Screw the System, a modern guide to greatness. And I published it on Amazon without any kind of audience at all, just pressed entered, uploaded it, and rather naively thought that the book was just going to sell itself. I'd spent 4.5 years writing it with many rewrites, and I got it into my head that the journey was over. It was finished. I'd done all the hard work, put it up on Amazon, and naturally, because it's a good book, it's going to sell loads of copies. Well, it didn't happen like that. In fact, it bombed initially. I think it took me 6 weeks to sell a single copy outside of a family member. So I was a little disheartened by that. I put all of this effort and energy into creating the book, expected this great return, expected to be living a new life almost off the back of the sales and what it was going to lead on to, but it didn't do that at all. So I was left having to go back to the drawing board, and I got it into my head, rather foolishly I think at the time, that there was something wrong with the title or the cover. Screw the System was going to put people off, you know, or maybe alienate the large female audience who read personal development books. So I was reading Kindle Crusher courses, I was taking these courses about the importance of the title and the cover. So I thought, okay, let's come up with the next idea, call it Escape the System Now. And here we have this fantastic cover which I got from Fiverr.com. Now you get what you pay for. Clearly, I actually think a Screw the System cover is far better than this cover. But anyway, I was not in a good mental state at the time because of the lack of sales of Screw the System, thinking something would be wrong. And when you're questioning yourself in that way, you inevitably end up making bad decisions. And this cover and the title was, well, Escape the System isn't a bad decision, the now is unnecessary. We're still exactly the same book though. I just changed the cover and the title as these courses were telling me to do, to see if it would make any difference to the sales. It didn't really. However, I still carried on. That was, I think, 2014. February 2014 it changed to Escape the System Now. Then I spent a little bit of time in 2015 updating the actual content of the book, paid a new cover designer a lot of money, in the hundreds of pounds. I still wince a bit at the thought at how much money I paid. Dropped the now, and the book became Escape the System, and this was the start of January 2015. Now, I am happy with this cover, I'm happy with the title, I've settled with it, and moving forward, that was what it was going to be. I also updated the content, so there was about, I'd say, 15-20% new content, got rid of some of the stuff which I wasn't so happy with, and launched it in January 2015. I've also written this new book, How to Create an Income Without Working a Boring Job. This is actually the last copy you can get of this because I had a great breakthrough at the end of last year. A publishing company has picked this book up and decided they're going to publish it, so it's going to be released in 2020. It's no longer going to be called this, and that's no longer going to be the title. It's going to be called Do the Work You Love, and the title is being created. So part of my 1,000 sales was this book as well, but it was minimal because I released this book in July of 2018 only to my subscribers, and I sold a few copies at events I run. So the majority of the 1,000 sales have been from Escape the System, but I thought it was worth mentioning that I've written this book as well. So that's the backstory, guys. I now want to move into giving you guys a little bit of tips, not on how to sell books. We're going to get onto that. First of all, on how to write books. So now that I've told you a little bit about the backstory behind Escape the System, I'm going to give you my advice on how to write books. Now, the first thing I'd suggest to you when it comes to writing is that you get a mentor. For me, when I was writing Screw the System, between I think 2007 and I mentioned I published it in 2012, my mentor was a guy called Tom Butler Bowden. Now, he was a published author, still is, has a wide range of books, and the books I got from him, I bought of his, were 50 success classics, 50 self-help classics. I really loved them. I thought, wow, what better guy to get to help you on your own self-help book than some guy who's reviewed 50 or so of them and has compiled them into a list of the top 50. So fortunately, he was in Oxford in the UK, not too far from me. He was mentoring me throughout the entire process, and I can't explain how much this helped, not only for writing tips, but also in terms of the direction of the book. Before it was Screw the System, the book actually had the working title of How to Live Your Dreams. And Tom said to me, look, this is too generic, you know. How many self-help books are there out there with that kind of theme, that sort of title? And within that, though, within that book of How to Live Your Dreams, there was a chapter I'd written called Screw the System. And when he saw that, he said, now that's the direction your book needs to take. So this is a value of having a mentor. When it comes to actual writing practices, I started by just doing an hour a day. It was that simple. I was doing tennis coaching and hypnotherapy as well at the time, so my time was limited. And obviously when you start, it's a daunting task. It feels like you're trying to climb Mount Everest. So I just said to myself, let's do an hour a day, see how much I do. Try to be consistent though, and that is important. That's one thing I was. Even though I was only doing an hour a day, I was doing it every single day. So that was 7 hours a week. As I went along, I started to do a bit more than that, from 7 hours a week up to 10 hours a week. Fast forward to now, and since I spend more time on my writing and I'm doing less time on tennis coaching and hypnotherapy, I've now changed my writing strategy. I've sort of moved on to a certain amount of words per hour. So at the moment I set myself 350 publishable words per hour, because obviously 350 words an hour doesn't sound a whole lot. But when it's got to be a publishable quality and not just 350 words of garbage or 1,000 words of garbage, which you're then going to end up editing and deleting 900 of them, it's not that productive. However, I found that it is quite productive if you set yourself an achievable goal, and that goal is, as I said, includes quality words. So 350 quality words an hour. Depending on the time, I might only write, depending on how much time I've got during a day, that may only be 1 hour, or I may do 4 hours of that. So these are my different strategies you can use when it comes to writing. One tip I'd give you is make sure you don't repeat yourself. It's very easy when you're starting to write to make a point in one paragraph and then 3 paragraphs later, whoops, I'm making the same point again. Try never to repeat the same thing. It bores the reader. Another thing I want to mention when it comes to writing is the editing process is crucial. It's really important. I think that's where the magic happens. You can have a great manuscript, a great document that sometimes can be a little lengthy. Sometimes, as I said, it can repeat itself. It's got too many words. Editing is your chance to eliminate everything that isn't essential and really leave the reader with something dynamite for them to read. An example I always remember, it's not actually from the world of writing, it's from the world of music, was Michael Jackson's Thriller. Best-selling album of all time, in my opinion, the greatest album of all time. Maybe a lot of people share that opinion as well, some don't, but anyway, undoubtedly it's a great album. If you listen to interviews with Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones on the process of creating Thriller, they will say that when the album was complete, they played it back and they just thought it was garbage. Quincy Jones said it was rubbish. Michael Jackson said he was in tears. He put so much effort into it and he was so disappointed with the outcome. However, they went and remixed it, which I guess is the writer's editing process. And after that, I think they said they had took 2 days off and then a week or so, 2 weeks to remix the whole project. And they were left with this amazing piece of musical brilliance, which then went on to become the best-selling album of all time. So it's this process of remixing, or rather editing, which is often the most important stage. So do please remember that and take great care when you edit. Scrutinize every detail. Find out what isn't essential. So I've given you guys a few tips when it comes to writing and writing strategies. I now want to give you a few tips about selling books. Okay, on to some book selling tips. But actually, before I do that, just need to plug myself very quickly. I forgot to mention in the last section, if you are looking for a writing mentor, I'd be more than happy to help you. I've had experience editing other people's work and working as their writing mentors previously. I'm more than capable of doing it, so if you want me to take a look at your manuscript, then do feel free to get in touch. Okay, plug over. On to writing selling tips, book selling tips. Now, whereas I feel I'm an expert at writing books, when it comes to selling books, I'm still learning. And basically at the start, I was a real novice. I had no clue whatsoever. First mistake I made was putting my book, Screw the System, selling it on Amazon without telling anyone about it. I didn't have an audience. Try to build your audience first. Try to build an email list first. This actually may mean that you spend a couple of years, few years blogging or making YouTube videos like this. So you find an audience first and then you sell the book to the audience, rather than creating the book and then hoping that people are going to come along and buy it. Now, audience building is a kind of a different subject unto itself. Developing an email list is something which is not really the remit of this video. I may make a video on that. In fact, actually, there's a blog post on it on my website if you want to check that out. But something I found that works really well is selling to your email list. You spend time building this list up and then you tell them about a book launch that you've got. You know, you tell them, this is what I did with How to Create an Income. Look, I've been working on this book for a couple of years. It's going to be ready in 4 months' time. Give them a preview of some of the content. Tell them about discounts that you're going to offer, and then you do the launch to your email subscribers. Try to give them a week-long discount to buy the book. I found that's really effective because there obviously needs to be some pressure for them to buy. Don't just say, it's up now, go and buy it. You know, actually maybe a week is even too long, maybe 24 hours, 48 hours. Say it's up on the website and it will be at such and such discounted price for 24 to 48 hours. Creates a sense of urgency, and then they'll go and buy it. Something else I've only very recently discovered is that having 2 books to sell is really effective, because what you can do then, when I did that launch for this book to my email list, I gave them an option of buying How to Create an Income its own, and I also gave them a bundle deal, so the 2 together for a discounted price. It makes it really hard to resist. You know, when you see 2 books, and these were ebooks, these weren't they weren't in the paperback form when I sold them to my subscribers. But when they see 2 books for, I can't remember what I sold it for, $6 for 2 books, the electronic version, you know, you can't resist that. You just think that's just too great a value. I've got to buy it. Same applied when I was selling books at events. You know, this was the paperback then. Although I had very limited copies of this, I did sell it with this for, I think, crazy, it was something like £10 or 10, 11, 12 pounds for the 2 of them. Again, if they're even remotely tempted, they'll begin to think, that's just too good an offer, I've got to take it. So that's one strategy, having 2 books. Another, as I mentioned, selling to your email list. You can sell through social media, but I would recommend being subtle in your approach. Don't just upload your book with a link saying go and buy. Again, follow this strategy of hyping the book for a good few months, maybe even a year. Tell your followers that you're thinking of writing a new book. You know, consult them on the potential cover designs. Release a bit of new content. Build it up. Say it's coming. in and amongst loads of other posts about different subjects, giving value to your followers. Don't just talk about your book the whole time. And then when you come to do the actual link, when you come to do the launch, probably don't leave a link. Maybe just take a picture of the book, they've arrived, take a picture with your books and say, books arrived today. If you're interested in getting a copy, leave a comment below. The reason you don't leave a link on Facebook is that Facebook algorithms don't rank the links highly, so they will reduce your visibility. Whereas if you just post a story about your book, it's far more likely that a lot of people are going to see it. So there are quite a few different ways of selling the books. I have covered a few of them. I've actually written a blog post on this, guys, which goes into a lot more detail about selling the books and the whole breakdown. I'm actually going to put the graph up on the screen, the chart up on the screen now of my breakdown, so you can see exactly where the percentage of my sales went. And if you want a more detailed analysis of how to sell your books, please do go to that blog post, and I'll include the link now. I'll include the link below. Before I end this section, I just want to talk a little bit about selling at events. I find this to be really good. If you're a public speaker or you're interested in speaking, then you can set up your own meetup group, run events, or you could speak at other people's meetup groups. You can find people who are doing weekend workshops or seminars. You can go do a talk there, and off the back of your talk you can then say, hey guys, got these books for sale. Again, if you've got the two of them, you can do the discount option. If not, you can still promote the book. And if you've done a good talk and the people are interested in what you have to say, it's more than likely that you will pick up a few sales. I think my conversion rate, I thought it was quite good. I don't know how it compares to other people, but sometimes I get 25% of the audience going on to buy a copy of my book after I did a talk. So I found that a very good way of selling books. These are just a few tips, guys. Do check out the blog post if you want more details. But selling books is a tough process, especially if you're not naturally inclined to sell. But when you think of it as promotion, you're promoting yourself, you're promoting your work. I then found it a bit more enjoyable when I made that mindset shift. It's not selling, it's promoting. Okay, so I want to end this video by talking about whether it was all worth it. So I mentioned that I sold 1,000 copies of my book, but it took me 6 3/4 years to do so. Not only that, there was 4.5 years of writing leading up to that figure. So you've got to ask yourself, is it actually worth it? Especially when you hear the amount of money I've made for those 1,000 sales. I make about £1.50 per electronic copy I sell. I make about £3 for every physical copy I sell. I think if I averaged it out, all of my sales over the years, I think I probably make £2, a little over £2 per copy I sell. So 1,000 copies. For book selling alone, I've probably made just over £2,000. That's in 6 3/4 years. How could it possibly be worth it for that little financial return? Well, the answer is it's not all about financial return. For me, the reason I've continued is because I feel this is my purpose in life. So when I get a book sale, every single sale is a result to me. Not only that, when I get somebody emailing me, if I get a positive review on Amazon, or somebody speaks to me in person about the book and how they've read it and how it's had a positive impact on their life, well, to me, that's realizing my life's purpose. You can't put a financial figure on that. And for that reason, despite all of the effort, despite the small financial return, I still do feel that this whole project has been worth it. Plus, it's also got the potential to lead to bigger things. I mentioned earlier that my How to Create an Income book has now been picked up by a publisher. Next year it's going to be published. Perhaps that's going to lead to more sales. Perhaps that's going to lead to a bigger platform. And also, all of these years selling this book has increased my audience, a very loyal audience in some cases, who are keen to buy my future books as well. So this whole thing, I'm hoping is going to grow and grow to the point where the financials do start to take care of themselves, and the financials start to make sense alongside the personal reward, which is certainly making sense. So that's something perhaps you want to consider when you're setting out on your journey to become an author. Are you doing this for the money, or are you doing it for the personal reward? If you're doing it for the money, you can make a lot of money selling books, but it's also can be difficult. So I think you've got to be in it for the personal reward, because that might be the only thing that's keeping you going for a good few years. So thanks for watching this video, guys. I hope you found it useful. Please do share it with anyone who is interested in writing a book or has started writing a book, whatever the case. Let people who know about this video who are aiming for their first 1,000 sales. I've got more videos coming up, more interviews coming out, more interesting subjects to discuss. So stay tuned for more from the Screw the System channel, and I will see you in the next video.